Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Babakhan, and I want to welcome you to the Books and Such Literary Management Podcast. Today, we have a wonderful episode for you. We are going to talk about becoming the writer that you are meant to be. And we are going to talk about 3 different ways that writers often try to grow in their craft and the pros and cons of each of those. So we are going to be taking a close look at writers' conferences, writers' coaching, or writers' coaches, and reading books on the craft of writing and social media experts. So welcome to this episode. We're so glad that you're with us, and settle in. It's going to be a good time. So what do you guys ladies think about, let's take a look at the first one, writers' conferences, some of the pros and cons of those and what we've all experienced most likely as writers and agents in this capacity.
So Debbie Alsdorf here, and I would just like to say, as an author myself for many years, I found going to writers' conferences, when I started going to them, that there was this huge gap between where I was and where I needed to be. I didn't know about this gap until I got right there with instruction and writers' community. And all of a sudden, it was like this aha moment for me that, like, I thought I was ready to go. I mean, let's do a book. I have an idea. Let's publish a book. And I realized that I wasn't quite ready. So I think one of the pros of writers' conferences is that it helps get you ready. It gets you from point A to point B. It starts giving you some confidence to move down the path that you need to go on to become a writer. And in addition to that, you are then introduced to people in the writers community, agents, publishers, editors, and it's just a whole new world opens up for you when you begin being part of the writing community.
I think one of the cons that we might say, and all of us love and have been to many writers' conferences over the years, but I think one of the cons is that even though you can see editors and agents at a writers' conference, is often kind of at a distance, or you get a 10-minute or a 15-minute appointment with them. You don't get to carry on a conversation that will be as meaningful as you might want it to be or expect it to be, because the time is so short, and it has to be because of all the people that are involved in that. Writers' conferences, an expensive proposition. They can also have the challenge that you might feel, as somebody once told me, like a little fish in a big pond. But I think, Jen, as we were talking earlier, I think you had an idea too of something a young mom might face, or somebody with a full-time job might face during a writers' conference experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Barb.
Well, I was going to say, before you shared your con on that one part, can I share just a really quick pro based off of something Cynthia had said?
Yes.
For me, having at a writer's conference, I've had a couple of times where meeting that agent or an editor for just 2 minutes, that actually did make a difference. And so I was going to say, like, that as much as it can be a con, there were times where, like, 1 or 2 words of encouragement, I was like, oh, I now see something I didn't see before. That was it. Jen, go ahead and jump in with yours.
Yeah. So, I mean, as back when I was going as a beginning writer, my kids were very little, and trying to navigate getting childcare and all of those sorts of things, that became quite a bit of a con for me. It didn't outweigh the pro of going and getting that experience and all of that, but that was certainly something that I had to navigate for myself. And certainly if you have a full-time job, you're taking time off to have to go to an event such as a writing conference. There's so many benefits, though, that you do receive by being in the same room as other writers and agents and editors and that sort of a thing. But these are things that you do have to consider as you are wanting to grow your craft and trying to figure out what is going to be most meaningful to you in whatever stage of your writing career that you are.
And I would like to bring up one other con, and that is, it's back to that small fish in a big pond situation, that one of the cons can be that you hear people a lot of times say they get imposter syndrome at writers' conferences because they get there and they get around all these other people that they think are more advanced than them or have more going on than them, and they begin the whole comparison thing. And so I would just like to say that is a con, but if you know that going in, it's really important that you go in very clear that if God has called you to write, then he is going to equip you to write, and his timing for you to write is going to be on his timetable. And so you can go in confident, humbly confident, your confidence in God and his plan and purpose for you without comparing yourself with other people. But if you don't go in knowing that you might have some of those weird, funky feelings and comparisons, it might take you by surprise. I mean, I remember the very first writers' conference I ever went to. It was many years ago, but I literally wanted to run out because I thought, what am I doing here? I mean, these are all real writers. Well, I was a writer too, but because I was comparing myself to other people, I wanted to give up before I even started. So knowing that ahead of time can help turn it into a pro where you can learn how to stand in confidence in God's purpose for you.
That's so good, Debbie.
My dear friend Barb Roose also says that they're not so much cons as they are trade-offs. There are trade-offs that we're making this in everything we'll be talking about today too.
Let's move on to the next pros and cons, and let's talk about writers coaches. When we are as literary agents, when we're talking with people, often they'll say, hey, can you recommend a writer coach? What are some pros and cons that you've seen?
One of the downsides sometimes, and it's not across the board, but one of the downsides to keep in mind is that sometimes you're getting one expert's opinion, and that expert may not have been within your publishing lane, within your genre lane even, or they may have formed some opinions over the years, and you're getting a little more narrow, a great education perhaps through that coaching, but also the coaching is going to take an investment, a significant investment of time over many months. Sometimes it could be even longer than that, as well as the financial investment. So Jen, I know because we're all excited about everything we're talking about, we'll trip over each other, but go ahead. What did you have to say?
No, I was just going to say with the writer coaching, right along with what you were saying, that sometimes the financial investment of a writer coach, because they are investing so much time and effort into your project, that means they're having to tell other people no so they can focus on one. So they're likely having to charge a larger amount of money. And as you also said, that's a lengthy commitment as well. And so it really becomes, for you as the writer, considering how beneficial that's going to be for you and your specific and particular journey and the goals that you have for yourself. Because personally, I've just seen writer friends of mine, if they're working with a coach or whatever, they could be working with a coach for a year or even more. And by the end of it, they are no closer to meeting their goal of obtaining an agent or getting a contract than they were to start. And that's not to say even anything negatively on the coach, but just I think that oftentimes that can become kind of a feedback loop relationship where you don't ever kind of move beyond that. So I think it's really important to kind of monitor yourself if that's what you choose to do, and see if you really are making good progress toward that end goal that you have.
For me, one of the pros of working with a writer coach is that one-on-one that we talked about, to have somebody who provides encouragement or validation or affirmation. But again, a trade-off, it depends on who that one is. If the goal is traditional publishing, if someone isn't working with a writing coach that has either traditional publishing experience or they've worked for a traditional publisher, then it's going to be tougher to to have assurances that that coach is going to be able to get the writer where they want to be. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I know one writer coach in particular who especially focuses on their narrow area of expertise, and knowing that going into it, that's wonderful. They have a narrow area of expertise. It's very well honed. Everyone who takes that writer's coaching has emerged from it having one skill set much stronger than it was before, and that was great. So that's another pro, that if we're careful when we're choosing our writer coach, that can be possible too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say a pro in the same way, Cynthia, is that if we get with the right coach, then it can really advance where we're wanting to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can help us see things that we didn't see. They can help refine what we're trying to do. But it is important, if you're wanting to be traditionally published, to make sure that you're with a coach that has experience in publishing and with editors in traditional publishing houses, because it's a complete different thing, like, than self-publishing. So it's very important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last pros and cons that we have. And this one, we, like, as we were talking about the episode, we had kind of like this, like, it's one of those ones where it's quiet, but it's influential. And this is reading books on or the social media experts out there who've got lots of opinions on writing. Where do we land on the pros and cons for this one?
Okay, I would like to say a con to start with, and that is I'm gonna go with the social media experts, because some of these social media experts are not experts at all.
Mm-hmm.
They have just picked an area, and they're to influence people, and they are having voices in that space, but they may have never even published themselves. So you got to be careful who you're listening to. So, because there are so many influencers in every category of life right now. And so there's no difference in the writing world, but you don't really know if the people that you're listening to are experts at all. I'll give you an example. I was following somebody that I truly thought was an expert because they declared themselves an expert. This was a few years back. And I was listening to everything they said. And then I did a little bit of footwork and found out because they were teaching, like, how to be more present on social media, how to get more followers or whatever, so that you can build a platform and you can get a writing contract. And come to find out, they didn't even have a platform themselves.
Oh.
And so they had a very small platform. And I'm thinking, why are they the expert on this when they haven't even done this for themselves? So I think that is a con, and a pro would be to find people to follow and to listen to who have some experience and know a little bit more of what they're talking about than those that are just calling themselves the experts with no expertise.
That's good.
I'd like to give a big round of applause to the idea of reading books on writing, on the craft of writing, especially if we add the caveat of classic books on writing, respected books on the art and the craft of writing, and also those that are updated from time to time, because the traditional publishing industry is different than it was even 10 years ago.
Yes.
But one of the things that has always struck me is that that a good writer, an author who is publishing book after book after book, is probably also reading book after book on the craft of writing. Some that I talk to, I know they have a certain pattern that they read the same 3 books on the craft of writing every year. They'll go back through the same books on plot or character development or communicating with your reader or understanding your reader over and over again, because that ongoing learning is so important. And it is very important. The downside of it is, it's again coming from one perspective. The books do need to be updated from time to time in the areas that have changed in publishing. and it misses the personal one-on-one touch that is also important too.
Mm-hmm. True.
Well, flash fun question, and maybe our listeners would appreciate this, says, does anyone have any of your favorite writing books that you can think of off the top of your head that have been formative to you? Because there might be some folks out there who are like, there might be some that I've been missing.
Goodness. I mean, a favorite of mine is Bird by Bird, of course, by Anne Lamott.
Yep.
And I think that's one of those classics that that gets recommended a lot for good reason, because there's just so much freedom in that book, and to stumble your way through and be okay with not being great at first. And so she's one of my favorite authors anyway, but that book is one that was wonderful.
I just gave that as a graduation gift last weekend to a young school graduate who is going into creative writing. I'm like, here you go. So,
Yep.
Other favorites.
Stephen King's book on writing.
Writing well.
I'm too scared to read Stephen King, but his book on writing is a classic for me that is philosophically about the art of writing, but also practically as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be mine. I think, there's a few that I'm thinking about, but a favorite of mine of the last few years has been Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She's not necessarily writing about the mechanics of writing, but the heart of a writer. And that book is a wonderful temperature check for me when I'm starting to get a little grumpy about my writing career and why I'm doing what I'm doing. That book is a wonderful temperature check.
I love that book. I read that last summer, and I just loved it so much. It was so good.
Debbie, did you have one?
I had the same ones that everybody else had. I was getting ready to say Anne Lamott, Stephen King on writing well. So we're all on the same track here.
Yeah,
love it. Oh gosh. Well, I will make sure that those end up in the show notes.
So we've been looking at all of these concepts. What is it that Books and Such could offer or is offering that would take all the pros of what we've been talking about and eliminate some of the cons that we've been talking about? How is it that Books and Such literary agency can help writers become the writer they're meant to be?
Jen, you sound like you got something to share.
Well, of course, I have to mention our Books and Such writing intensive that we are going to be hosting September 22nd through the 24th. And we are also excited about it because it's truly an opportunity for our entire team of agents to take some writers under our wing as mentor agents. And we have so many fun things in store for those that attend. One of them being that we are going to get the chance to have truly one-to-one interaction with those that we are mentoring for a lengthy period of time throughout this process. And so as we were mentioning before with the conferences, how you just get that little snippet of time with an agent at a conference. This is truly going to be the opposite of that, where we are going to get to really get to know these writers. We are going to be able to take a deep dive into their work in progress and really talk to them about their work. And so how do you guys feel about that chance to get to work one-to-one with these wonderful writers?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited because writing a book is hard. It isn't an easy venture, and doing it alone is even harder. So what I love about what we're going to be offering is this isn't a course, it's a guided breakthrough. I just love that. And over a few days, we're going to learn how to tighten the message and sharpen the craft with each individual writer. Will help them connect their work to a wider audience. And we're going to be doing this as experienced literary agents, coming alongside, walking them through every single step to help them get to a place where they are more publishable. It's exciting. What an opportunity. I wished I had something like this before.
Piggybacking off of what Debbie said, this space to be able to offer feedback. There are so many writers who start their books over and over and over again, or they start new books and they're not sure what's working and what's not working. And all of us on this podcast, we're also writers. Like Debbie said, writing is hard. We know what it's like to just go, is this making sense? Will this work? And because our agents, we work directly with editors at publishers, we know what they're looking for. They tell us directly what's going to work. We understand what market trends are doing. So our ability is in working one-on-one. We'll also have some group work, but this intensive experience is also very intentional. And it has the type of information that a writer who wants to pursue a career in traditional publishing would truly be looking for.
There's going to be a lot of practical opportunity to apply the lessons that are being learned right in real time. There'll be assignments that are specifically tailored for each individual writer participating, so that they'll be actually able to actually see their project moving forward from the beginning of this intensive to the end of the intensive. In a way, it's like a plot line that the writer won't be the same person when they emerge from the intensive as they were when they came in.
Barb, did you want to take this last one?
No, I saw you primed up and ready to go.
Yes. So one of the other things that we're going to be working on together with writers is creating a pitch for agents and editors. This is something that so many writers struggle with, and it's so intimidating when faced with the task of coming up with a way to describe your project. I think that is such a point of overwhelm for writers, trying to figure out, how do I summarize this? How do I make this intriguing and compelling enough to make it out of the slush pile, or make it something that someone wants to learn more about? And that's exactly what we're going to do with each specific writer and their project. We're going to really work on creating a pitch for them that turns heads and makes agents and editors want to learn more.
And they can find out more about this intensive where, Jen?
They can learn all about the intensive at the Books and Such website at booksandsuch.com. We have an entire webpage dedicated just to this under the resources tab. I just wanted to really take a moment to thank everyone for joining us today. We are so glad that you joined us, and we encourage you to check out the show notes to take a look at the resources that we've mentioned in today's episode. And again, just a quick reminder that this Books and Such Writing Intensive is going to be September 22nd through the 24th of this year, 2025. And you can check out the link to that intensive in the show notes as well. New Books and Such podcast episodes are going to be released on the first Wednesday of each month. And you can listen to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, and iHeartRadio. And we sure hope that you will not only subscribe, but leave us a review as well, and let us know that this podcast has hopefully been really helpful to you. Until the next time, see you later.